started walking. I was dressed almost like Lawrence of Arabia. You know, I was like all in, like had my head all wrapped, and I had brown skin and long robes, and I'm walking through this desert, and then I see this massive pyramid, but it was not stone, it was light. It was made of light. And I knew that we were there to activate it. Something about it was malfunctioning, and it was like we were on this like galactic electrician crew. That's what it felt like. And then 3 of my other guys, including Shrepti, so like a tall, white, like Nordic looking elf, and then me, and then Shrepti, and then a Syrian, a blue Syrian with like gorgeous, like glowing patterns on his face, showed up, and we stood on each separate corner of the pyramid, and between us we were able to activate it and get it working again. And then it started to connect to all these other pyramids and the whole planet.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
Hello and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain. As always, so wonderful to be with you all again. And please remember, if you're liking the shows, to like and subscribe and leave your comment or send me an email. And you can chat to us. I've got a Facebook group called the Awakening Empowerment Network if you want to join that and chat. People post all sorts of things. I let people post anything in there. You know, other people post their shows. It's just about empowering us as we awaken in this world. Well, have I got a delight for you today? I've got the gorgeous and delicious Shytei Corellian with me.
Hello.
Well,
Hello, Karen. Thank you so much for having me.
I was just saying to Shytei, I haven't, she's an author and she's prolific, but I haven't read any of her books. And so I was trying to find out a little bit more about her. So I was looking at some interviews she did, and I didn't find out anything about her. So I'm going to learn about Shytei today as much as our audience is. So let me just tell you a little bit about Shytei. Shytei Corellian's greatest passion is the birthing of a new world out of an old, something we are currently right in the middle of here on planet Earth. A novelist, filmmaker, screenwriter, poet, Qigong teacher, meditation instructor, and spiritual counselor, Shytei is the author of 2 feature-length screenplays and over 100 or 300 poems. The author with Visa Fiction. She's completed 4 novels. Have you completed more than 4? 4 novels?
Completed. Have we on to 5? 4 completed and ready
and 5 on the way, and 15 more to come, including the visionary fiction series Leader of Legend. She's also the author of the award-winning film or short film The Wolves, which is a longer film, right? The Wolves is going to be a longer film.
Yes. So the feature, we're now in pre-production on the feature-length film of the short film. Yeah.
Cool. Shytei has been channeling novels since she was a child. Her writing has been about recording lives on other worlds that have gone through what Earth is going through now. Shytei feels her purpose for being here on Earth, told to her by her guides a long time ago, is to remember, remind, and record. She's been writing about other worlds going through the same transition that Earth is now for over 30 years, and believes Earth is being reborn into a new light and a new way of being. She believes how we live and show up in the world is vital at this time on Earth. Many people are here to hold and draw down the light, and she is bringing these stories and this light into the world through her writings, her work, and her movies. Shytei lives in Park City, Utah, USA. Utah. And you've got a couple of websites. You've got shytei.com. And you've got ShyteiCorellian.com. What's the difference between the two of them?
So Shytei.com is my own personal website, and then ShyteiCorellian.com is one that the publisher set up for each of his authors. So yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so let's hear about what was happening to you as a kid. Like, when did it all begin?
Well, it began actually. I wrote little things as a 5-year-old, was just always writing, and then at 9, I wrote a little short story for a writing contest at school. It was a Halloween writing contest, and they said write a story and enter it, and we'll have this little contest. And I wrote that at 9. The same way that all of my writing since then has happened. I just saw this little image in my mind, and as I started to write about it, it just unfolded like a movie that plays inside my third eye, and I just write what I see. And so I did that, and then we turned it in, and then I never heard anything. And then I got home one day from school actually that day, the teacher had gone to the chalkboard and written this huge word on the chalkboard. He'd written the word plagiarism. None of us had ever even heard that word. We were in 9th grade, or 9 years old. So what is that? Not 9th grade. And we're like, we don't know what that is. But the whole time he was looking at me, and I was getting really freaked out and kind of stressed. I'm like, why is he looking at me? And then I get home, my mom said the teacher called me into school saying that they did not admit your story into the contest because they said no 9-year-old could have written it. And that was all they had. They didn't find out where I'd plagiarized it, nothing, they just said no 9-year-old could have written this. So clearly she stole it. And that was that. And my mom said, I told them that I watched you write it, and then I typed it up for you, on my typewriter, because I didn't know how to type. But so after that, I kind of got kind of scared as a little kid, this happening. And then at 13, I had a dream, and it was in May. And a year later, to the same night, I had the continuation of that exact same dream. And that same day, I started to write actually my first novel, which I think it will be my last novel. I'm almost at over 1,000 pages on that one. Wow. From when I was 14. And I think, and I kind of have the intuition, the sense that it was my first, and it will also be my last I ever write. So it's not out, and it will probably not be out for many, many years, but I did start to write that. And it was the same thing. It was just like this download of memories. And I would just write what I saw. And then the Leader of Legends saga that I am currently working on, that first book happened at 16. Also from a vision, I was just sitting in my room, and I see this man standing underneath a tree. And then I pulled back and just started to write about him, and it just unfolded. And that's the first book in the Leader of Legends saga, Wing and Neon. And that will eventually be 4 books in the same world involving the same people. But yeah, it wasn't until in my late 20s, early 30s, when I realized that all of the novels that I'm remembering of other lives on other worlds are worlds that are in that transition period. They are going through a time of where the old system is decaying and falling apart, and something new is being built. And I had that epiphany moment where I was like, that's why because I know that we've all lived myriad of lives, but I'm like, why is it these in specifically that I'm remembering? And I realized that was why. That was the common thread through all of them, is it's an expansion of consciousness into a new world as the old one, and the trials that come with the old worlds crumbling and falling apart. Yeah.
Absolutely. I was saying, I was on a group last night, and we were talking about this, and I was saying it's a bit like those renovation shows. Those renovation shows on television?
Well, they have to break the house apart.
Yeah. And then they have they've got Demolition Day, and it's like he comes with his sledgehammer and he goes, Demolition Day. And I'm like, we are going through Demolition Day.
This is Demolition Day. Oh, 100%, isn't it? Oh my goodness. Yeah.
To build the new home, you have to break down the old one. So these are channeled messages. When you started receiving this information, did it come with spirit guides, or did they kind of give you a clue, or are they just giving you the information? How's it happening? How's it unfolding?
So I found this with, meeting other experiencers and just reading about other experiencers. I had all of the same experiencer, you know, a lot of the same, like big animal heads all of a sudden showing up in the window and you're like, mom, can you see that? No, I can't see that. And you're like, it's right there. And then invisible friends seems to be a real common theme among experiencers. And I do remember as a child going up in 2 different ships. One was, and I didn't know it was an Arcturian vessel until I had another vision of tall blue beings surrounding me. And they said, we invite you to sit in council. And after the very next day, I was kind of led to get a book. And I think it was one of Barbara Marciniak's books. And it said in there, and I saw, it was mostly Pleiadian, but I saw in there the word Arcturian. As soon as I heard Arcturian, boom, all the lights went on. And I was like, that was that ship that I went up in as a child. And then there was another ship I remember going up that was more of a mixed crew. There were Pleiadians and Syrians and cat beings and reptilians and grays and hybrids, and it was just like a mix of everybody on this ship. And those were the 2 strongest memories I had of being like a little kid. They just walk right in through the wall and just wake me up. And I'd like, sweet, it's you again, you know, and I'd take their hand and we'd walk through the wall and we'd get in the shuttle and we'd go up to the big ship and it was just like going home. So I guess I was really lucky because it wasn't until just the last few years, and I'm 50. So it's just been the last few years that I've really been understanding that a lot of people have very traumatic experiences with abduction, but I never had that. I thank goodness. I was always very excited to go, and in fact, I never wanted to come back. They finally, they're like, we have to stop coming and getting you physically because you're having a real hard time. You don't want to go back. And I was like, that's true. Yeah, I felt weird and out of place here and so alone and so homesick my whole life. And they're like, so we're going to stop coming in person and we're just going to be around etherically. You know what I mean? You'll still come etherically. You'll still be able to feel us, but we're not going to take you in body anymore because you're already having a hard enough time staying on Earth. So we're just we gotta hands off for a while and just let you be, and you know we're nearby. And that was really hard to take, for sure. You know, I cried a lot. I felt really, really sad and lonely after that, after they said that they weren't going to actually take me physically anymore. But I still feel them around, and in meditation, I can call on any of them, you know, that I want or feel like, you know, they have, or if they have something to say, then they'll just come in and say it. But yeah, kind of like you are like really in communication with your guides, aren't you? It seems like you're very, very in tune, very.
I got the mob on tap. But so when they came, like, when did that stop? When did they say, okay, we're not going to take you physically anymore? How old were you?
I was 7.
You were 7. Okay.
I was 7.
Do you remember what they look like?
That was the Arcturians.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of people say a lot of different things of what they've experienced, but mine were tall, 7 feet tall, blue, and barely had a body. It feels like you could almost like pass your hand through them if you got, you know, a humanoid form, the big almond eyes, but very like maybe 6 density, you know, like very, very thin. You wouldn't be able to go up and like push them over. You know what I mean? So you'd just be like, that's funny. What are you doing? So, and they feel like my family, and it's only been recently that I've been able to get some confirmation of it's a 3-system world, and in Arcturus, and I've incarnated on these 3 worlds the most, and that's why they feel like the closest to my soul family. You know, and then in this life, more of a hybrid. I've got a bunch of different, confirmed that I've got a bunch of different etheric DNA going on in this particular body to to bring those frequencies together, you know, to try and like create some healing and stuff, I believe.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, primary family feels is Arcturian. So.
Do you remember what they said to you as a kid, like why you were human? Like I would imagine that when you're up on the ships, you're kind of like, why am I there and not here? I come home?
Can I please go home? Please?
And they're like, this is what we've got to do.
And you're like, no. It's like, wait, my friend, a close friend of mine, we say all the time, we thought it was a good idea at the time. That's what we want on like our headstones. We thought it was a good idea at the time. We're so stupid.
Not stupid at all. It is a good idea. It just feels like it's not a good idea.
It just feels like it's not like,
when you're in lockdown for months and months.
Right, especially the last 2 years, right? You're like, okay, maybe this was really dumb. I do know it's interesting, and it was actually the kind of when this claw kind of started about 20 years ago. I felt this tall reptilian, really big. Before I knew much about reptilians, before there was much on the internet, like early 90s, so there really wasn't a whole lot to go to do research. And he honestly scared me to death at first. And I was like, and I couldn't see it. I could only see him in my mind's eye. And then I could just feel where he was, and I was like, okay, I knew that we had a past, but I wasn't ready yet. And I was like, okay, you need to keep your distance because you're kind of freaking me out. And every time I asked him, he would totally keep his distance or just disappear, And then as time went on, then I got his name and it showed up in my writing. I was told by the guides that all my answers will show up in my writing. And it's true, they do, because I had written about him. And I was like, oh my gosh, I really did write about him. And his name was there and everything. And holy crap. So I'm starting to remember a lot of lifetimes that he and I have had together. And have you ever heard of, are you familiar with Barbra Lamb?
Yeah.
Do you know Barbra Lamb? Okay, so good. Yeah. So I scheduled a session with her 2 years ago and drove to San Diego and was able to see her and have a session with her in her home. It was beautiful. And we instantly went to being a 5-year-old, and this being comes and gets me. And like I said, they walk through the wall and they go up in the ship. But when we got up there, there was something weird about him. He'd like look like a Pleiadian and then he wouldn't. And then I finally looked at him and he was that tall reptilian. And I was like, and then I sat up screaming during the session because he said, I'm your father. I sat up screaming in the middle of the session. Poor Barbara, bless her. And then she was able to get me to come back down and go inside, get and calm down and go back to, to the meeting on the ship. But it affirmed for me that he and I have had many lifetimes together, and there seems to be this epic struggle on Earth between light and dark, and that I am the very, very empathic, very intuitive, so much feeling, and he's, very like just observing and non-emotional, and we've had many lives together, and I think us having his DNA and us working together that way is creating, if I can heal that in me, then it will help heal it for the world. So I understood that that's why we did that in this particular body, in this particular lifetime, to help heal those old wounds, even from the Orion Wars and, and Earth and all of it, to help heal that. And he's learning so much from me. He's learning about emotion and about connection and these kinds of things. But he's still very, very loving to me, not in like you and I would probably experience, you know what I mean? But we're so animated and stuff, but I still feel a great deal of love and protectiveness from him. And I did get the world that he is from, but they said it's not on our star map, somewhere in Scorpio. But but he said he would not be offended if I just called him the Reptilian Man. But I do have his name, and and I've been calling him by his name for years, and so I think that was really special because you get little hints, you know what I mean? So it's fun to kind of put the puzzle together and then receive that affirmation that that I felt a long time ago, that we have that by our working together. And so many reptilian species now are realizing that they cannot progress beyond the 6th density as service to self. that only in service to others can they advance beyond. And there are, many reptilian races or so I've heard that they're just fine staying in the sixth, but that it seems most now, from what I'm experiencing myself and hearing from others, that they want now to expand beyond the service to self and become oriented more towards service to others. And that is, I think that's a beautiful expansion of consciousness too, that we're also experiencing here on Earth.
Wow, that's really beautiful. I mean, there is this narrative out there that, this idea that all reptilians are evil,
Or horrible.
Yeah. But I've seen so many people in regressions and, see their reptilian lives and see that.
Yeah.
But hearing you today has given me a new perspective on them. So a race that has been predominantly service to self is, doing its best to turn it around, and it's contacting, souls that are coming into the human body to help them, like, I'll help you, you help me, and together we'll make a difference,
Yeah. It's a beautiful co-creation, where, and I need to be more calm and more centered. And he gives me that, because the more I get involved in the problem and forget that this is just a biosuit, and and trying not to identify just with this body and this ego, he is great at helping me breathe and just get some perspective on it, and then I help him understand the human emotion and the empathy and, all of that kind of thing. And it really is a beautiful co-creative process that we're in.
It is. And of course, all of us as humans have what's called the reptilian mind, which is that which is that military-like mind where you can get very organized and strategic and logical and not feeling. So it's actually beautiful to have the combination of both, because if you're too empathic and in your feeling sense, you're all over the shop like a mad woman's breakfast and you're not getting anything.
That is exactly it. So yes.
It's nice to have that sort of strategic military type sort of influence inside that creative, free-flowing, empathic.
A rudder. What was it? They're like a woman's energy is more like the ocean, and then a man's energy is more like the ship that cuts through the ocean, like holds the straight line. And I was like, oh, that's true, because as a woman, I'm just everywhere. Storms come up, and then the storms, and then it's 1 minute it's trying to kill you, and the next minute it's like, what? So for people that are watching the video, like, show them your finger, show them your ring. So people on audio, I'm going to describe it to you. It's a metal ring on her index finger, which is like a claw. It goes all the way. All the way. It's fabulous. It's fabulous. So what's the story around that? You said that something had something to do with him. What's his name, so I think it's
Shrepti. Shrepti, cool name.
Shrepti, yeah. And it's so funny because I was just so attracted when I saw it, and I was like, whoa, I have to have that. And it wasn't until later I realized, oh, that's clearly his influence. You know what I mean? It's like, this is why I was so attracted to this. And it's like, oh, I have to have it, So it was just funny. It was just like all the little things that we love and we're interested in. It's like, if you tug on that thread a little bit, you can see where it's, you know what I mean?
There's a bigger story behind it.
The bigger story behind it. Yeah. Other lives and other experiences and that come into play.
Is he one of your characters in the Leader of Legend series, or where is he? No. Where does he fit in the writing?
He has shown up in 2 of my novels now that are not completed and are separate from the Leader of Legend. Leader of Legend was more inspired by, I know now, and Urma, one of the feline cat races. So this big black cat head with glowing green eyes, that was one of the ones that showed up in my bedroom window. And I can only assume now it was after I'd been up in one of the ships and they were dropping me off. And then, how a lot of people will see owls is a really common one, or a deer or whatever. So this big cat head, and then that cat, the just keeps showing up, and the cat showed up. It's a big Black Panther with glowing green eyes, is features heavily in Wing and Neon. That's like Wing's spirit guide kind of in Wing and Neon. So it's funny because I mean that showed up as a 16-year-old, and this big cat was there in Wing and Neon as as
so
Wing's, like,
Wing
spirit
and
guide.
Neon are characters in the Leader of Legend. I didn't.
Yeah, they're two brothers.
Okay, so Wing and Neon is the first book, Leader of Legend Saga 1, Wing and Neon.
Yep.
Wing
Yep.
and Neon.
Yep.
And then the second book is
Did you see it?
the son of you tell me, the son of.
Oh, okay, so actually Son of the Metna is a different world, and that's going to be 2 books, and that one is done. So that's a different world. And then Wing and Neon is going to be Wing and Neon, and then the second book is Jason and Tama. Jason is Wing's son, and then the other 2 are Lant and Monterey, who are like the mentors. They're like the Obi-Wan Kenobis of Wing and Neon. And so we're going to be going back in time to tell their story. And then the last one is going even further back in time from Wing and Neon and talking about Lyric and Seka, who is Wing's like great grandfather. So we're kind of doing the Star Wars thing, kind of starting out in the middle and then going a little ahead and then going back in, back to the future, going back into the past to tell the story of the leader. So that's the 4 books there. And then Son of the Metna, I think it'll be 2 books. I've kind of started the second book in that world.
So the 4 books that you've written are 2 in the Leader of Legend Saga, and then 2 novels that are separate, but they kind of dovetail with the stories that are in the Leader of Legend Saga. Is that how
actually, no, they're totally separate. So Son of the Metna is completely different world. And then Trissel and Journeyer is the other one that's done. And it's also a completely different world. The only thing they really have in common is that they are visionary fiction, and that in each one of them, an old world, an old way of doing things and of being is dying. And these people are kind of, the seeds and the kind of the pivot point into a whole new world. So that's really all, that's the common thread of all the writing, but they're all different worlds.
So visionary fiction, I love that name, visionary fiction. Have your guides said to you that what they're giving you is remembrance, like memory, or is it complete fiction? Like what is visionary fiction? Visionary fiction.
Visionary fiction took a long time to come to. I explained it as instead of writing something where the world devolves into something worse, apocalyptic, or end of times or whatever, that visionary fiction is about. Yeah, there'll be some hard times, but eventually it will get better instead of turning into zombies. So that's kind of was my definition of visionary fiction. And then a friend the other day, who's part of the Visionary Fiction Alliance, she said, for me, it's about an expansion of consciousness. And I was like, that's the best thing I've heard ever. So it is. It's about expansion into consciousness.
You are an answer to my prayers, to my screaming at the television, because I love fiction. I love sci-fi and fiction. And it's always so negative. And so much of the futuristic shows, that movies that come out, are the sort of apocalyptic theme. World has died and everyone's suffering and they're struggling to survive, and they're all killing each other for the morsel of food or whatever, and then the quest is to whatever the quest is. But it's always, it's like, and I watch this stuff and I think, what is with these people? Obviously, these people are creating a timeline and reality that is available to go down, right?
Right.
Not the one I want to go down. I want to go down this like, okay, demolition day happens and then we're renovating and we build the new house, the building of the new house, the better, more modern, more sustainable house. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I have a hard time watching it too. I'm like, is there anything, is this, I know it's because it's really what sells. But I'm like, can we not imagine, instead of things devolving, things evolving into something better. Yeah, we'll do this demolition, but the thing that we'll build will be, like you said, it'll be so much more sustainable and so much more beautiful. And, and we can just actually enjoy being human. We don't have to have all this strife in order to have an experience. And it's one path to growth, but it's not the only path to growth.
Right.
And I think we're creating something new and something better, birthing something better out of the ashes of the old. Yeah. I'd like to believe that.
So there's a visionary fiction alliance. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Isn't it great? So yes, the Visionary Fiction Alliance. Great bunch of people. Actually, since we first spoke and scheduled for the show, sadly, my publisher has died.
Oh, is this the Visa publishing?
This is Vizia Fiction.
Oh, it's Vizia. I've said it wrong.
Vizia. Right. Yeah, no worries. No worries.
Wow. So he's left his pod. Right.
Yeah, okay. He got rid of this biosuit fast. Like they missed, he had cancer and they missed it for like 8 months. And by the time they diagnosed it, they gave him a month and he only went 10 days and he's like, I'm done. I'm out of here. So bless him. Yeah.
I heard you saying on another show that you had, dreamt for years to be a published author. Yeah. And I'm like, if you've got a book on Amazon, are you not published? Like, because I've got published books on it. Like, okay, so I'm not a published author. And as I was listening to you, I was thinking, that doesn't matter. That's old school thinking. That is old school thinking. So many people are putting their books out. I don't know if you've heard of Preston Dennett, prolific. He's got 29 books out there talking about.
Does he really?
And they're all self-published and they're doing great guns. And I don't know if the book is in writing and it's selling, it's published. To me, it's published. So
honey, I needed to hear that too, because I was like, if you're an indie filmmaker, you're super cool. If you put out your own music, as an independent musician, you're awesome. But as an indie author or a self-published author, people are like,
I think that's really old.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, that is not okay. You know what I mean? It's no different.
It's all paradigm thinking, and like publishers like people that represent musicians are dying because, not literally like your publisher, but it's a dying art because the internet provides an audience. And so what can your publisher do that the internet can't do? I don't know. They're going to take most of the money. And so I don't know. It's a dying world, and there's a new world emerging, which is more autonomous and more, you're not under the control. They take the copyright, don't they? Maybe they don't do that anymore.
No, he was still considered smaller, independent. So, but he just took the rights for 5 years for each novel, and then they would revert back to me. Okay. So not bad. But now that he's gone, there's really no one to take up his helm for that. So I think all of the rights are going to revert back to the authors. And then I think we might just do like a pass-through publishing type thing, where visionary fiction authors is kind of the umbrella, and then you just kind of publish through there, but you still take care of your own stuff. So kind of like another hybrid mix of, which is what the internet has given us. You know what I mean? Yeah, we don't have to wait for permission, please. You know what I mean?
Right. I've got
we could favorite. Put it out.
I've got a favorite guest that puts out books, and he's with a new age, like a conscious publisher, but he finished his book at the end of, where are we? He finished his book at the end of last year and submitted it. And then I'm like, oh, so it's going to be out this year. And he's like, no, the publisher said it's not going to come out until 2022. Like they were going to take a year to get this thing out. And I'm like, dang, this is what you're going to put up with when you, with publishers. Like, why are they going to take a year to get this thing out? I mean, what's so hard about just getting the thing out? Anyway, I'm thinking and Preston, who's like, next book up. He just pops them all up on, he's just prolific, just popping them all up on Amazon.
I'll have to look him up. Preston, what did you say?
Preston Dennett. He was in our
Preston Dennett. Oh,
You'll love
that's
his stuff.
great.
He was in our inner sanctum this week, this month.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've got time.
You're like, where are we?
And I'll be putting up the highlights soon. But yeah,
cool.
and
Look forward to that.
he's prolific writer, and he's a researcher, but he's also a contactee himself. And we actually spoke about, he's put out a book on astral travel. And when you were talking about going up on the ships as a kid, I was thinking about him because once he perfected astral travel, it took him years to perfect it. He was like out in the outer realms and seeing his dead relatives and taken to the like heavenly realms and seeing all this beautiful. And I said, didn't at any stage you feel like it was so beautiful you didn't want to come back? And he said, no, not really. He said, no, I really wanted to come back. And he said, oh, really? Interestingly enough, when you're connected to your body here on earth, it's kind of hard to stay there when you're deliberately astral traveling. It's like your body is constantly
it's a magnet
pulling you back. Yeah. But that's what NDEs say, you know, they're in these celestial realms where it feels so amazing. And they feel like they want to stay there and not come back. But
well, that's interesting what you said. I just put pieces together when my crew, one of them, was like, we're not taking you physically anymore because you don't want, that makes sense now, right? Keep the physical body here because it's that magnet. It's like we are probably all up on ships etherically all the time, but this body is a magnet to keep pulling the consciousness back until we're done doing what we came here to do. So that makes a lot of sense.
I know. And this really is what Preston was saying. It's something I've always known, that we're all out of body. Everyone is out of body at night, but we have no memory of it when we come back in the morning. And he said that he saw his sister and his brother out of body when he was astral traveling. And he said, you know, you're out of body, don't you? And they go,
really? So
we know
they
that.
were all astral traveling.
Yeah. And they go, well, yeah, we know that. And he goes,
oh my gosh,
will you remember it when you get back in body? And can we talk about this when you get back? And they go, no, I won't remember. And he said, well, why won't you remember? He said, I just can't remember. I don't remember. So they knew when they're out of body that they don't remember. Like
they don't remember when they're back in their body.
Yeah. And he was saying, well, can't you make yourself remember? And they go, no.
They're like, very simply, no. You know, it's so funny because my partner that you saw, you know, he's getting me set up. He's so on board, more than anyone I've ever met, but he has no memories. Memories.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating for him sometimes. And I'm like, there's got to be a reason why your soul, you know, your higher consciousness is like, you don't need to remember, you know what I mean? There's got to be a reason, but it's sometimes like very frustrating. Like, I just want to remember just one little thing. And I've seen him on the ship when I go up, you know what I mean? And I remember, so I've told him, and he's totally like, cool, you know, but it's,
you know, this amnesia thing for
he would remember.
This amnesia thing for humans is so strong. It's so strong. And I guess I'm getting now that it's all a part of the activation of your DNA. The more that you activate the other strands of your DNA, the more you have memory and access. It's all part of the awakening process. So they're saying like the not memory, that having the no memory is a part of the evolutionary process. And when you start to evolve, then that kicks in. But like you can go and have hypnosis and you can remember. It's all there if you want to know.
Yeah. It's all there, just under the surface if you just let go for a minute. And
what else did you discover? Cool. Did you only have one session with Barbra?
I just had one with Barbra, and then I had one with a woman here who also did Dolores Cannon's QHHT. And that was really cool. That was actually literally like 3 days before we went into lockdown here in Utah. I had a session with her, and it was beautiful. When I came down off of the cloud, I don't know if you're familiar with QHHT, they take you up to the cloud, then you come down the cloud. And I came down this world in this massive dust storm, and then I started walking. I was dressed almost like Lawrence of Arabia, you know, I was like all in, like had my head all wrapped, and I had brown skin and long robes, and I'm walking through this desert, and then I see this massive pyramid, but it was not stone, it was light. It was made of light. and I knew that we were there to activate it. Something about it was malfunctioning, and it was like we were on this like galactic electrician crew. That's what it felt like. And then 3 of my other guys, including Shrepti, so like a tall, white, like Nordic looking elf, and then me, and then Shrepti, and then a Syrian, a blue Syrian with like gorgeous, like glowing patterns on his face, showed up, and we stood on each separate corner of the pyramid. And between us, we were able to activate it and get it working again. And then it started to connect to all these other pyramids, and the whole planet like came alive with this massive, I'm getting chills, massive pyramidic grid. You know, it was so cool. And then after that, right before, you know, we were about to be over, I saw Earth, and I saw like black archons. And I love spiders. People have taken offense to this. They're like, spiders aren't bad. And I'm like, this is just a metaphor. Okay. I love spiders. But black spiders like archons crawling all over the earth, almost infesting. And then I saw just the sky filled with ships. And all of these ships were communicating with their starseeds, and the starseeds were all these bright platinum lights. And again, just like that pyramid, this grid, this platinum and gold grid just lit up the earth and connected everything and everyone together. And all of the like archon spiders, all the dark energies just kind of like turned to dust. So it was this really beautiful, like metaphorical vision of what's happening on Earth. And like I said, this was just right before we went into lockdown. And early 2020. So it was a beautiful, beautiful vision from that hypnosis. Wow. Yeah.
The synchronicity of this conversation is so bizarre. You know, I was saying last night I was online with some girlfriends, and one of them, when she had her awakening, had this awakening, this experience with this Black Panther, like you were talking about the Black Panther. I'm like,
oh, did she really?
There's the Black Panther.
I have never met anyone that was like a big okay,
I'm
this
trying
is cool.
to get her to write it. She's busy. She's got a stack of kids, and she works as she's got a corporate job. And anyway, she's busy. I'm like, you got to get this down, because I'm getting her to do a chapter in the book, you know, the Awakening Soul series, her awakening with the Black Panther. Anyway, she'll get it down one day.
Beautiful.
And then last night, after I got offline, I went and watched Gaia TV and the Cosmic. I was watching something on Gaia. I can't remember. Disclosure. Anyway, no, it wasn't. I can't remember. I've watched so much stuff, but they were talking about the spiders. They were talking about
were they really?
spiders, and they were saying this person was saying that they infest, like they're these gigantic beings. They're real, they're gigantic beings, and they infest planets like a spider can lay millions of eggs. They go and they
infest.
And they're very into control. Like they're nefarious in that they like to control things. And just your vision of the spiders and the control we're going through. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is so simple, because it's the same conversation I'm listening to last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We have the Black Panther and the huge, because they were huge spiders. And it was wow. So holy cow.
But I love the vision of the ships all beaming down to the starseeds, and then they just all disintegrate. That influence, because it's an influence. It's not like they're here physically, because obviously we don't see giant black spiders everywhere.
Spiders, yep.
But there is some conscious influence on our world that is dissolving with all the starseeds and light workers that are here.
Yeah. It's so beautiful. There's so much light, and I keep getting, because for so long I was like, I don't feel like I'm doing enough, and my guys would be like, what you read in the bio, you're here to remember, remind, and record. And I'm like, okay, I've done all of those things. I remember, I'm writing it down, recording, and I'm reminding people through my writing, and also friends or family, whatever that I run into, and I have a flashback, a memory of us on another planet or another world or another interaction, and I can share that with them. But sometimes I still am like, I don't feel like is that it? You know, is that, you know? And then I keep getting the message of, you don't have to do anything, just being on Earth in a physical body. and embodying that etheric DNA is drawing down that energy into the planet. And if you didn't do anything, if you could just sleep all day, which none of us can because we got to pay the bills, but it's like if that was all you did was just have your feet on the earth and breathe, you are fulfilling your mission of bringing down and anchoring light into this planet at this time. So that message keeps getting drilled into me when I feel like I'm not doing enough.
I constantly feel like I'm not doing enough, constantly, and my guides basically say the same thing. Because you see people that are doing masses of stuff. I was listening to a conversation with Elon Musk, and he was saying that when he was a kid, he felt so he was bullied a lot as a kid, and he felt so isolated and strange and not normal because his mind was constantly exploding with ideas. And then as he's grown up, he's fulfilled many of those ideas, and my mind is constantly exploding with ideas too, and I fulfill very little of them. I've got a lot going on.
I don't know, you did a whole conference, didn't you? I mean, look at you put together a whole conference. Oh my gosh, I would
but I constantly feel like I'm not doing enough. And my guides say the same thing. Like when your mind is exploding with ideas, you feel like you have to fulfill all of them, but you don't. You don't have to fulfill all of them. Maybe just having the idea is just anchoring that consciousness here on earth. And if somebody else manifests your idea, it's like I was having a conversation with a friend the other day. I was talking to a friend, and he started a conscious community and putting on events, and then we're locked down. And I said to him, maybe you want to consider doing it online, and I told him about the conference, the Higher Self conference, and he's like, no, I don't do the online thing. And I said, maybe you want to consider it because of the and so a week later, he's doing this online conference with a whole lot of my friends, and I'm not included in it. And then I was sort of like got in my ego, like, why didn't they include me in it? And
wait a minute, that was my idea.
I'm all over it. And, then the book's Conversation with God, there's only one of us in the room. So of course I did the conference because we're all one. Exactly. Right. I know we get so caught up with identity and who, you, me, you do it. I mean, because we just have to remember that if it happens, it happens. It doesn't matter who does it, because we're all one. So I'm doing it, but I'm doing it through you. I'm writing that through you, and you're doing shows through me, we're all doing
that is so, that's so profound and beautiful. And when it's in the ether, like you said, like you put up the idea and then somebody else grabs it out of the ether, and you look at, what was it, like all of these great ideas, and you'll see 2 or 3 people will grab it. Right. At the same time, the same idea. And it's like, that it was in the ether, and it was just a certain amount of people that grabbed the same thing out of the ether at the same time. And,
exactly.
And, and those conversations with God books were pivotal. I grew up Mormon, and it was my writing, because I'm like, Mormons don't believe in reincarnation. And I was like, well, this is a huge problem because I remember all of this. So that blows that out of the water right now. So what am I supposed to do with that? So I didn't tell anyone I was a writer until I was in my late 20s. I wrote in secret in my room and hid the pages, because I'm like, I'm not supposed to believe in this or even know this or whatever, because I know that this is real and I'm not making any of it up, but it can't be real because I'm a Mormon. They don't believe in reincarnation. And I'm like, okay, this is a big problem. And then in my 30s, I kind of already started to leave a little bit because of my writing. But then I read the Conversations with God books, and just for like a year, just exploded my mind. And it didn't feel like learning something new. It felt like remembering that I already
absolutely
knew all of this, and everything opened up. And
it's going to make me cry. I remember where I was living at the time. My daughter was 8. She's 30 now, so that's how long ago it was. And I would sit in bed reading those books. I would sit in the car reading them. I'd sit in bed. I'd go to work.
I was in the bed and in the car too. All the time I'd go read, and I read sitting in the car.
3 books back to back, I think within the span of a week. And then I reread them. But I remember sitting in bed crying and crying with the remembrance. Like, yes, I remember now. And then I went away, and my brother and sister-in-law came to stay in my place for a few weeks. And I lived in this little underneath someone's house, and I looked out at this dirty little courtyard where the car was. And it was a nice little modern, tiny little place, but it was pretty ugly. there was no view, there was no outlook. Anyway, and so she's sitting and they came and stayed in my bedroom. And after they left, she said, I loved your bedroom. And I said, why? It has no view. You're looking at brick walls. It's just the white walls and a bed. And she goes, I just loved being in your bedroom. And then I had this instant flash of me sitting in bed reading those books. And I left that energy there for her. Yeah. And when they came and stayed, she was lying inside that remembering, like that, just that opening and that remembering. Yeah, she was lying in it in my bedroom. Isn't that beautiful?
That is so beautiful. And how powerful. That the energy of that would be enough that she'd be able to experience it, or at least know that something was different. Yeah.
So that goes back to our conversation about just being here and remembering is doing your work, because you're making that energy available, even if people don't see it as remembering, but they just see it as, I felt so good in your house and your presence, where you were. I felt so good. You make that remembering available. So key.
It's such a huge gift, isn't it? And
it's such a gift.
Yeah.
So let's get into the books a bit. I want to know more about the books. I want to know the stories. I mean, you've written so many. I don't know, where do we start? And and is it fiction, or is it actually memories of other worlds?
Memories of other worlds. Yeah, it really does play like a movie in my head. As soon as I start to write, I don't think about it. I've never plotted a story. I've never developed a character. And I don't think about my writing when I'm not writing. If I get a vision and then I start writing about it, and as soon as I put my hands down, on the keyboard, start to type, then it just starts to play in my mind like a movie, and I just type what I'm seeing. And then when that film strip runs out, sometimes I've had books sit for 10 years.
Wow.
And I just go work on something else, because there's always something. There's always editing to do. You know what I mean? Yeah. So before I get another download, and I'm like, I don't know what happens here. I'll write to a point, and I'm like, I have no idea. There's a huge hole in my book, a massive hole in my book. I don't know what that is. And then I'll see a vision or a little picture of somebody somewhere else in the book, and so I'll just start writing that. And it is so phenomenal, Karen, how those blanks get filled in. I have absolutely no idea how this is going to work out. I'm like, this is a huge plot hole. This is a big problem, and then I'll write this other piece, and then, I'll just be doing whatever I'm doing. And then all of the puzzle pieces will come together. I'm like, oh, that's how that worked out. And I'll hurry and go write it in. It happens over and over and over again with all of my novels. Yeah, it's such a fun, intuitive process. It's so great. It takes a lot of faith, though, because you're like, I don't know how I'm going to figure this out. But
you just got to wait to the next installment. I often think that Harry Potter came through like that. It must have.
Oh, right. Oh, I feel that way. About Harry Potter and about Star Wars.
Right.
I feel that they just like Avatar, that they just like, boom, it was just a download, and they just,
And then we put the human spin on it, like, oh, we've got to have some more violence and more killing and more chasing, and the human spin, not enough more violence, more running around. So, so these worlds, what are the name of the world? So let's look at Wing and Nian. So Wing and Nian are the name of two people, male and female, Wing and Nian?
No, two brothers. So one, so Wing, and then Nian is his brother, but his adopted brother. So.
And what world do they live on? What's their world?
The planet is called Lear, and they are on one continent. There's three continents, ocean, and then three continents, big continents around the middle. And so all four books take place on just one continent, the Lenta continent, and in a little tiny valley right in the middle of that continent called Braive, and it's very isolated. So nobody leaves Braive, very high really mountainous country. Then it's a little tiny valley, and nobody leaves, and nobody is allowed to come in. They won't even allow traders or anyone to come through. They're very isolated. They have one book of scripture, and that's all that anybody reads or can read. There are no other books. And Wing is just a kid. If he was like 8 or 9 when his father was out working around the farm, and he heard some crying, and he goes and he finds this little boy. And this little boy is actually from the race called, right below Raiv, called Preek. And they have almost like that deep black Nigerian skin color that's almost blue, but it also looks kind of like an oil slick. Like if the light is right, it, you know, kind of has that iridescent skin color. So obviously in Raiv, they'd never seen anything like that before, because they're just kind of white folk, you know. And so Wing's dad gets this little boy, and he's like, who left you here? What is the, you know? And he takes him home, and Wing and Nian are like, they're two halves of the same coin. So they eventually discover that, yeah, they did have a soul contract to be born and to find each other. And it's around these two brothers that the rebirth of their whole world takes place. And so Wing grows up, or Nian grows up as Wing's brother. And actually in Raiv, they have more of a religious, what's the word? They have more of a problem if you're not their religion than skin color. They don't really care, because they don't see different skin color anyway. So they don't really care. So that doesn't bother them about Nian. What would bother him about Nian is if he didn't believe in their ancient writings that they have, you know. So he grew up with that, and there's this threat from the north so that's the doom, and Wing has a lot of visions and a lot of dreams, and they think that he is this leader of legend that will save their people in a time of great need, or in a time of war. And Wing is like, no, I'm not, and I just want to tend my fields, and I just really want all of you to leave me alone. And he's like, if anybody should be this leader of legend, it should be Nian. He's the outgoing one. He's the, he's the reader. He's like finding books in this old castle, and he wants to start a school because all the kids are just taught at home. And he's like, but there's so much to learn. I want to teach them all this stuff other than the ancient writings, and people are like, ooh, slow down. So eventually we have 4 different stories that are brought together. We have the Kaul, who are the bad guys from the north, and then we have a princess from Kienis, which is another huge valley, and then we bring in 2 other little valleys, and eventually all of these people are brought together to try and build a force to basically, because the Kaul are slowly invading, and they do end up taking Raiv because nobody would know that they were there. So they find that as a great base of operations on that continent because it's so isolated. So Wing and Nian in one night pretty much lose their entire world, and they manage to escape, and they are brought together again and meet together, and then they meet all these leaders of these other valleys that are able to put together a force strong enough to push the Kaul back and basically save the entire continent from being overrun. But it's about saving a world, but it's also about Wing is this anchor. There's a massive crystal underneath Raiv, which is kind of the heart of their planet, and Wing is able to anchor higher consciousness and ground it in through his own body into this massive crystal underneath Raiv that anchors this new light that allows the new world to be reborn, and Raiv to open up, and all of these disparate valleys to join together and to work together and save their people by the end, but not like any of them thought it would.
Wow. It sounds fascinating. Do you hope to see them as movies? I'd love to.
Oh, all the time. All the time. Oh, yeah. I've pictured it so many times in my mind, sitting down in the theater and being able to see Wing and Nian and Raiv on the big screen. It's an absolute dream. I hope I get to see it before I die.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Just Cecil B. DeMille. I've always loved Cecil B. DeMille, the really old, huge, epic, films. And so I'm very happy to have met my guy in the filmmaking. We hope to be able to
get it done.
To get it done. Yeah,
I might be able to introduce this to some people. I was saying that
would be great.
You know, when I was a naturopathic student, I used to work in the film industry catering to earn money. And I always knew I had the schleppiest job. I was the least paid person with the hardest job, you know, sitting in this truck. It was like sometimes 50 degrees Celsius in this truck cooking crappy food for fat executives that were making crappy commercials.
So you were like doing crafty or whatever. You were doing crafty on set. Oh, no.
I did work on a few movies, so I did a few things. I worked on Babe and I worked on a few of the big movies.
That's so cool. I love Babe.
But I always knew that before I died that I'd be back in the film industry some way. Yeah. I knew I'd go back there because I loved the whole craft. I loved the whole movie making business, and I love watching movies. Like, it's my preferred entertainment rather than reading a book, although your imagination can be better than what you see on screen sometimes. But I'd love to see them made. And lately I've had 3 film people on the shows lately.
Oh my head. I need to go find those, because it's hard, because we want to make movies like, you know, like The Matrix, that open people's minds. And every time we try, they're like, we don't know what to do with this. This is like, you know, even more niche than like Cloud Atlas or something, you know. And I'm just like, we want to make movies that do that, you know, that open people's minds and bring in a bigger energy and a more hopeful. And and so far we haven't had much luck finding, you know, investors for that kind of film, and it's just heartbreaking. I'm like,
times are changing though. Like you say, there's so many star seeds that are awakening, and they're placed in all areas of life, and they're inside the movie industry. They are the producers and the directors and the casting directors. I agree. And times are changing. You know, I'm thinking of some of the movies, because with all the great sci-fi movies like Matrix and Cloud Atlas, and what's that one that shows the reptilians and the other worlds? Oh,
there's a Jupiter Ascending.
From the
Wachowskis, and that was so cool. That was great.
Right. Wasn't the visuals on that amazing? Yes. None of them talk about consciousness. Like, none of them talk about the evolution of consciousness. They do have, you know, telepathic abilities, and they have abilities and stuff, but none of them talk about. And it's like, why has that component been left out of every movie? Yeah. Like the evolution of consciousness, the awakening of consciousness, you know? Yeah. That's the saga. Like, that's the story. Anyway,
it is 100%. And I'm like, you know, everybody asked me, they're like, what's the biggest problem, whatever we're facing? I'm like, our physical technologies, our phones, our things are far exceeding our spiritual technologies. Consciousness has to come first. You keep trying to put the cart before the horse, as it were. I'm like, all of these other problems in our world, in society, in everything, they will all resolve themselves 100% completely naturally if our consciousness evolves first.
When
our
you know,
consciousness evolves. Yes.
They're just reminding me, they're saying there are movies out there that have that, and I'm like, oh yeah, what? They said The Last Airbender, and I said, yeah, that's true.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Actually, my guy had me watch The Last Airbender. We watched all of it. Yep. That is true. They're not wrong.
It starts off really fabulously, and then it gets into the whole, you know, violence and chasing and killing and violence.
So much chasing and
chasing, lots of chasing. But
oh my gosh,
but it starts off really well, and I remember watching that going, oh, at last a movie. Yes. And then I'm like, oh, the violence and the killing and the
and then. You know, it's so funny. We just went and saw Free Guy. Have you seen Free Guy yet?
No, what's that?
The Ryan Reynolds movie where he's in a video game.
No, I haven't seen it. Free Guy.
Yeah, I don't know this. I don't know about spoilers. Maybe I shouldn't tell you, but it actually ends up in a way that it's like, hey, maybe life can be better without all the violence. You know, we don't need all the murder, stabby all the time. We can actually live and be completely rather fulfilled without all of that. So if you see Free Guy, then you'll know what I mean at the ending.
Cool. So that's out in the cinemas now, is it? It's probably not out on streaming yet. Yeah, it's just been released
out there yet. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. What time is it? We've only been going for
Yeah.
about an hour. I feel like we've got in so much in the hour.
I'm at 6. We have gotten in a lot.
We have. We've got a lot.
Ah,
Okay, so the Leader of
beautiful.
Legends series is about Wing and Neon all the way through. And you said
Yep.
that you want to do another 15 books. So that is that a 15 books in the series? Or is that
No, yeah, those are all I've already started, and they're all different worlds. So Wing and In will just be the 4 books, and the
Okay.
first 2 are complete, and I'm working on the last 2, and then 2 in the Son of the Metna series,
Son of the
and
Metna? So is Son of the Metna on another world or same world?
another world.
Another
Yep,
world.
that's another world.
Well, do you
Yep,
want to
and
give us a little bit of insight into that world?
That's pretty cool. They have almost like Avatar, a mother tree. So
Ah.
they're called the Galacticans is the race, and it's just one race, but different clans, but 12 clans, and they are a blending. The Galactican race is a blending of the great eagles and the giant bats. So they've got see-through skin. So you can almost see their bones, almost not quite see-through, but close. You can see their bones, you can see like their blood vessels and stuff. And huge wings, but bat-like wings with some hair, some not hair, well, some hair. Some of the lower clans, they have hair as well as feathers, but feathers growing down the back and growing along their backs and along the back of their wings. And the main character in Son of the Metna, the son, is Teka, and I saw him again in a vision. I saw this beautiful purple being with these massive bat wings up in the sky, almost like he was in space. And I saw like nebula, like the colors of your background, like nebulas and those colors surround. And he was flying through them, almost like you would fly through a cloud. And he was so just amazing and beautiful, and I was so enthralled. And then he stopped and kind of hung in midair. And then I saw along his back, along the big humerus bones of his wings, black veins. And I was like, oh crap. And then I realized he has this thing called the Bane, which is a death sentence to Galacticans. It's not contagious, but if you are born with it, then basically your clan will hunt you down and kill you, because they don't want that stigma associated with their clan, because it is a death sentence. There's no cure. And Teka is the youngest of 17 sons of Clan Metna, which is the master clan of the Rushalan jungle where they live. And their home tree, their mother tree is kind of think Avatar, massive mother home tree. And that's the home of the first clan, Clan Metna. And the story opens with him going through his initiation, which is this huge brand. They put this huge brand on his back, and their skin is very sensitive. So it almost melts into the bone. And they figure if you survive this initiation, then you are worthy to be in line to become an heir, to be the leader of the master clan. And then that's done by his father. And he's the only one in his clan that's purple. So he has this gorgeous purple skin, amethyst wings. And so his father and mother are not a big fan of his. They're like, you're a little freak, and we really don't like you. And you like to spend more time on the ground than in the trees where you belong. So they were kind of disappointed when he survived the branding in the beginning of the book. And then his mom gives him one more of her feat of the initiations, which he has to go find this little tree called the Leviatha and bring some back to her. And he's like, she really hates me because the Leviatha is a legend. It doesn't even exist. But he's like, okay, you suck, Mom, but okay, I'm going. So he goes, and the tree supposedly grows in the desert beyond the base clan. So the lowest clan. So he's the highest clan. It's like Romeo and Juliet. He's the highest clan. He's now going to the female-led lowest base clan, and he's like the Meekins, and he's like, this is humiliating. Anyway, he goes there, and he meets a woman. He meets Leantra, and she's a bright orange Galactican, orange wings and beautiful like orange hair and orange feathers everywhere. And he's like, this is a problem. I'm in love now with someone of the lowest clan, and I'm of the highest clan. My parents are really going to kill me. So he leaves and goes back home. But then there's a miscommunication because he's got the bane. So he makes his own little tree and moves out of the big tree with his family. And he's like, when they find out I have this, they're going to hunt me down and kill me. And so he's kind of hiding out in his own tree. And there's miscommunication because Leantra thinks, well, now he just really didn't care because he's of the high clan, but eventually they work together and they try to find a cure for him. And not to give away too much of the story, but they decide that the only way for him to survive is to try and start his own clan so that's again, the birthing of a new world. He's like, there's this old clan system that works for a few, but it sure doesn't work for everybody. And it sure won't work for me because I'm either going to die or they're going to murder me. My own family is going to kill me. So he tries to start a new clan where anyone, even if they have the bane, they are welcome to live there in peace and, until they die, unless they can find a cure. So again, it's the building of a new world. And he and Leantra, by the end of that book, try and do that together to build a 13th clan.
Wow. Yeah. It's again repeating the conversation that I had on last night with the girls.
That's so funny. We're all riding the same wavelength. It's great.
I know, because one of them, is married to a very conservative husband, and he's like, but nobody in my world thinks or speaks like you. You're the strange one. And she's like, I'm not the strange one, honestly. But we were just thinking, she was saying, I'm really seeing, we talked about the split in worlds, like the split in consciousness and the evolution of the two worlds. And she said, I always used to think, how is this going to happen? How is this going to happen? How is this going to happen? And she said, now with what's going on in the world, I see how that's going to happen. So that split in, unless you change your paradigm, your way of thinking, you're just going to go down that old world paradigm. Yeah. So with you coming from a Mormon background, how do your family relate to you?
Very strangely.
Did they come with you, or did they say, okay, you've gone crazy, you're off on your own, or did they say, oh, wow, that sounds good, let me come with you? No.
They've been actually very sweet. They've never staged an intervention. I think it's because when I left the church, I didn't leave it for sex, drugs, or rock and roll, or for another church, which I think was very confusing. So they're like, the only reason to leave this church is if you're going to join another church. And I was like, no, because, the conversations with God, it's all one thing. God is everything in everything. There is nothing that is not God. I am God. You are God. I am is us,
Right.
And it was like, but since, I didn't go off the rails and I'm actually a reverend, I did my degree. I did a metaphysical degree, which also grants me ministerial rights through the University of Sedona, the International Metaphysical Ministry.
Oh, okay. Is
called
that
the University of Sedona in Arizona? Yeah.
It's the interfaith practice. Interfaith? Is that interfaith, or is that different?
No, it's different.
It's different. Another one.
Different.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right. Interesting.
But he went to Dr. Leon Masters. He actually went to the United States government, and though it's under a ministerial heading, he was able to get actual lettered degrees like BSMC or MMSC, you know what I mean, for these degrees. And I'm like, sweet, because I have all of this metaphysical knowledge that is completely unrecognized in any normal university. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, where can I actually show that I have this immense, all this knowledge? But I'm not gonna be able to go to Harvard and have that knowledge recognized. You know what I mean? All this study and all of that. So I found this university in Sedona, which is Sedona, Arizona. It's a real hub for. It's amazing. So I was able to get my bachelor's degree there in spiritual counseling, and I'm working on. I finished half my master's work. I'm working on my thesis, which I've written 3 novels in the time it should take me to finish just my thesis. So bad. I need a tutor. I need a tutor for writing this thesis. And I'm doing that on reincarnation. And then I have my doctorate too, which who knows, Karen, I may never as long as it's taken me to finish the master's paper. But yeah, so my family's been actually really great. They're like, okay, you're really weird, but they've always known I was really weird. And it was funny. My oldest sister actually joked as a kid that I was dropped off by a spaceship. Not spacey at all. I found Star Wars on my own. I found Lord of the Rings on my own. None of my family is into any of this. If they knew half of what I've told you on this podcast, they probably would be like, okay, Shy, you've really lost your mind.
Right. Yeah.
But they've all been, we still speak. My mom and dad both are gone. But my two of my brothers and sisters live close, and we're really close, and we talk all the time. And yeah, they know I'm weird, but they're okay with it. And I don't tell them they're wrong, and they don't tell me I'm crazy, and we just get along. So
they weren't interested in like reading the Conversation with God books, because I mean the thing about the beauty of the Conversation with God books, it is it's coming from that really religious perspective. It's like marrying spirituality and religion. It's like it's a bridge. It's a real bridge for those two ideologies, and so they weren't interested in it.
No, not at all. And I think
because they've got their faith, and I'm not going outside that box.
And
this is my box. I'm in my box. Yeah.
And that's everything to them.
Right.
I mean, my family on both sides for generations, you know what I mean? And so I know that I did come into this family to be the first one to break some of those generational, you're smiling, you know what I'm talking about, to break some of those generational ties, you know what I mean? And to be an opening. And I don't think it will happen for any of them in this life, but as far as this generational line, I know for sure that I preloaded myself with the ability to get out, to see a broader perspective without hating it, without being antagonistic. Right. Because if I'd left it because I was angry, well, that's just more bad. It's just, that's not helping anything. But because I had no animosity for the church or for them staying in it or anything, that it's just purely not for me. We've all been good. There were no, even with my mother, her religion was everything to her. She still, we never had a falling out. I never had a falling out with any of my family over it, So it was more just, that I was kind of liberal. I'm apolitical now. I'm just about consciousness. But, when I think they had more of a problem when I was liberal in my early 20s from a very conservative than they did with all of my, you're an ET. Okay, that's fine. They probably had more problems with that I was a liberal for a few years than with the fact that I'm an ET. It's funny.
I have a friend in Utah who came from the Mormon background, and she's gone down her spiritual consciousness evolution, and she sees people that do leave the church just being so angry with the church and just throwing out the baby with the bathwater. And she says that it's not necessary, because she said so much of what she learned inside the Mormon religion was to, speak to spirit, and it helped her with her a connection with her own spirit guides and all that sort of thing. So she said there's a lot of, there's a lot of beauty, there's a lot of teachings in the church that are beautiful. You don't have to throw it all out. You don't have to diss all of it. But she said that that's a big, she wanted to address it, have sort of groups addressing people that are really angry, and they go completely hedonistic and materialistic and do all those things that you're told you're not supposed to do. I don't know the rules, but you're not supposed to do this, and you're not supposed to do that. It's like
all the things you're not supposed to do. They just go nuts. And and I think because I never did, they were like, okay, well, that's weird too, but whatever, you're fine. So oh man, I guess
that's a fascinating, interesting story too, to the live and let live, let you have your beliefs without trying to pull you back in, and without disowning you and all that sort of stuff. So
it was pretty, and it was pretty great. I got lucky that way. A lot of people don't experience that smooth of an exit, of a transition. Yeah, for sure.
With my family, we're all starseeds, but my brothers have not like one of my little brothers, he works in the military though, so he's very indoctrinated into military thinking, but he's awesome. I remember he's a brother from another mother. His mother said to me when he was a kid, oh, he's going to be a spiritual master when he grows up, and he is in many ways. And you know, his decision to go into the military was shocking to his mother, but he is bringing a consciousness into that realm, which is quite special. And but there has been a massive disclosure happening this year, and I sent it to my other two brothers who are completely sci-fi obsessed, you know, and I've had this conversation with them. I'm like, so you believe in aliens? And one of them said, oh yeah, I believe in them, I just don't believe they're here. And I'm like, why not? Oh, there's no way they could get here, it's too far away, blah blah blah, thinking if you I know, right?
Right.
Like, oh, what if I told you you're one of them? And he goes, oh
You're like, Pat, it's okay, you'll get there. I'm like, I don't think they're here, and you're just chuckling like, oh. You're not only talking to one, you are
one.
So
yeah.
I'm going to take this really small steps, buddy, because I know this is going to be rough.
I sent them both a text yesterday, and I said, have you checked out these documentaries? Because on our mainstream, on one of our biggest television channels, there was this massive UFO documentary, disclosure stuff. And then Netflix has brought out this series, which is called Top Secret Disclosure, yada, yada. And it's like a 6-part series, which is complete disclosure. I mean, it's got Emery Smith, you know, talking about Emery, and it's got Caroline Corey in it, and Mary Rodwell, and you know, and all the normal sort of military talking heads, but just everyone's in there, and I'm just like, oh wow. So there it is.
It's everywhere. It's so exciting.
It's exciting. That's what I'm saying. So
really exciting.
So these producers and directors are going to be waking up, and they're like, yeah, we're going to totally make these movies.
Yes,
we've got to keep holding on to that vision.
We do, because it's so exciting. I'm so excited for that. Oh man.
Yeah. Oh, darling one, it's been such a delight to speak with you today.
Too. Thank you.
And sharing your story. It's just been amazing, and the books sound amazing. So where do people get them? I suppose they're all on Amazon, are they?
Yep. They're all on Amazon.
I'll pop the affiliate links on my page too. If you want to.
Thank you.
If you want to buy them through our affiliate links, and I get a few cents. I do that with everyone, and I forget to tell people, so I don't make no money from that.
I can put those. Oh no. You do too. I'm not that good at that. I can put those on. I can put your affiliate links on my website too, can't I?
No, it doesn't matter. Yeah, you can, but it doesn't matter. Yeah.
All right.
But anyway, but yeah, they sound amazing, and I can't wait to read them actually, and see them in see them in on the big screen. That would be amazing.
Oh, so excited for that. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for being with us on the show.
Thank you so much, Karen, for having me. Hello, Australia. Thank you so much for your time. That was an honor. It was great.
Isn't she fabulous? Love her. Shytei Corellian. Fabulous name too, isn't it? Shytei Corellian. There's a bit of a story to the name, which we didn't go into, but if you do Google her, you'll see her talk about it on other podcasts. Yeah, we were just discussing about getting these books made into movies. They would be so great. Any producers, directors out there, conscious producers, directors, maybe you know somebody that you could direct them to the books. Anyway, I seem to have had a lot of people on the shows lately that want to get their work made into movies, but the movie making business is such an expensive thing. Oh God, you know, when talking to Stephen Simon the other day, I said to him, how much do you think it would cost to make this into a movie? He goes, $30 million. And I'm like, all right, $35 million. Maybe that can change too. Maybe we can make decent movies for less money. Why does it cost so much? I suppose all the wages, people need to be paid. And if you get really good actors, they charge a lot, don't they? They do. The acting profession seems to be one in which you can make a lot of money. Anyway, that's got to all change in this world too. Has to. Fascinating story. Oh, I just realized there's a word on my background. It says something. Don't know what it says. Probably the property of something. Anyway, let me know what you thought about Shytei. And yeah, read the books. Let me know what you think about the books. They sound fascinating. They sound like they'd be great too because they're fiction. So for the young minds that like fantasy and fiction too, so teenagers or kids even, something interesting, something for kids to think about. Maybe they could get into them, and then you can ask them, how do you think we can transform our world? See how they did it on other planets or other worlds. How do you think we can do it here? Get them thinking. That'd be great, wouldn't it? Be fabulous. The transformation of a world. That's what we're going through. How are you transforming the world? What's your puzzle piece in this human jigsaw puzzle? Maybe you're a starseed that's just here to beam the love, just to hold the consciousness, as we spoke about. Maybe you're here to get into action. Maybe you're a teacher. Maybe you're a channel. Maybe you're a mother birthing beautiful star children and not teaching them out of their gifts and reminding them who they are, or a father, a parent. Or maybe you're waking up your family that are sort of stuck in old dogmas and old ways of being, and you being different is a way that you're enlightening the rest of the world. There's another way, there's a new way, because we get so stuck, don't we, in our old way of being, as if it's the right way, the only way. It says that it was written 3,000 years ago in a book, or 2,000 years ago in the Bible. It's the only way. But we have to evolve. We have to move forward and evolve and change and change and raise our consciousness. That's what we're all up to. All righty, I'm not going to say too much more. I'm going to go now. And I did say last week that I was going to have someone this week on the show that wasn't galactic, but her partner got sick. So she ended up cancelling. I had a couple of shows booked in this week. So I did talk about galactic stuff this week. So we are still on the galactic track. And I think we are next week as well. I'm not sure who's coming up next week. No, I don't think we are getting galactic next week. I think we're talking about the Akashic Records next week. We're going to talk about the Akashic Records, which will probably be totally galactic anyway. But there's all sorts of fascinating people coming up on the shows. And please remember to like and subscribe and share the shows with people. As I said, I turned off all the advertising on YouTube, and YouTube just... I've never seen the subscription rate plummet so much, just plummet, like sometimes 20 a day. I don't know why people are unsubscribing, or if YouTube's not doing it. They did send me a letter saying they have the right to advertise on all the stuff on their platform. And so they're going to probably force me to advertise because they don't like it if you're not making the money, which is fair enough. They're a business. So yes, they don't like it. So they stop sharing your shows, and they unsubscribe people from your channel, which has been kind of interesting. It's been really interesting because I never had people unsubscribe till I stopped the advertising. And I would have thought it was the opposite, because that advertising's so annoying. You're just getting into something, and then, a Kentucky Fried Chicken ad pops up right in the middle of what you're listening to someone saying, oh, wow, that's really fascinating. And you're completely interrupted by this car ad or something. Anyway, so I might have to, they might force me to turn the advertising back on. We'll have to wait and see. And if I do, they might start sharing the shows. So it's up to you guys to share the shows and get the word out there. I don't know what happens on the audio platforms. I think it's a different deal, but on YouTube, definitely. All right, big love to you. And Inner Sanctum, not sure who's coming into the Inner Sanctum, but we did have Preston in the Inner Sanctum on Monday, and I'll be editing that this week and get that up next week, the highlights, because that was a fascinating conversation with Preston. He's awesome. I just love Preston Dennett. He's so enlightened. He's such an enlightened master, and he's so humble. He's really an extraordinary. The more I have conversations with him, the more I find out about him, because he's not someone that talks a lot about himself. He started to more, like he started to do shows talking about his own experiences on his YouTube channel, but he's someone that shares other people's stories because he's a researcher. And when you quiz him about his own stories, he's more fascinating than anyone else he talks about. He's he's amazing. Anyway, so I'll be getting those highlights up. And remember to buy the book, Awakened by Death, if you haven't already. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.